Hi, this is Ken Kessler. Welcome to Psychic Tapestry Déjà Vu, an encore presentation of a previously aired Psychic Tapestry program. That's a nice way of saying this is a rerun. This show originally aired in October 2014. Since this is not a live show, please don't call, and the event that we talk about has long since passed. I do want to take a moment to give you a heads up about this particular show. It is, by far, the creepiest show I've ever done. Maritza and Colleen from the San Diego Ghost Hunters joined me, and some very strange things happened during the show. I was disconnected several times, and my voice was occasionally replaced with the sound of booming footsteps. There was also frequent whispering while we talked, and a couple times there was an extra voice that wasn't whispering at all. None of this was apparent to Maritza, Colleen, or myself as the show went on live, though people in the chat room during that original airing heard plenty. I don't think any of the voices and other things in this show can hurt you or even bother you. To be safe, I recommend that you break out the sage while listening. This episode is airing exactly as it did 2 years ago, with no edits or other augmentation. The quality of Blog Talk Radio has improved since this aired, but I wanted to present it as it originally played without changing anything. That said, I did actually add a short clip at the end with transpersonal healer Julia Hoffman, who is also one of the co-hosts on Psychic Tapestry's Love Show. In that clip, Julia cuts cords for you from anything that might have tried to attach itself to you through this show. So if you do decide to listen, I hope you'll listen all the way to the end so Julia can cut cords for you. To keep up to date with all our upcoming appearances and events, click on the Events tab at PsychicTapestry.com. That's also where you'll find our upcoming broadcast schedule. You can catch Psychic Tapestry live most Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to noon Pacific, and Psychic Tapestry's Love Show on Fridays at 5 p.m. Pacific. With all of that said, I hope you enjoy this blast from the past. Here's Psychic Tapestry Déjà Vu. Podcast on Florida for with us at the Spark of Divine in Vero Beach. Special event. Show live. It's coming up on Friday. start talking about other stuff because I understand that this is not an unusual occurrence to happen at the Whaley House, but this was, I think, the first time this happened here that somebody turned me off. So I don't know if the Whaleys are already having some fun or not, but first and Colleen, welcome to the show. Hi.
Thank you. Hi.
I want to ask you some questions about how you get started in this, but first, something kind of weird just happened, and this was the first time that this happened. And I know that this happens sometimes when you are in the Whaley House doing an investigation that electronics gets turned off. And that seemed to be what happened to me just now as we were starting the show. I guess I was talking about other things, and somebody wanted me to get on with it and get to the Whaleys. But that was interesting. Just to jump right in with something like that, what can you tell me about one of those recent times that the Whaleys decided to turn off your equipment?
Well, they like to shut our equipment off. Francis is the one. Francis Whaley loves the electronics. So when we come in the house and set up all our cameras and recorders and everything, he's right behind us shutting everything off, and he'll shut everything off at the same time. And then we'll ask him, Francis, please turn everything back on because we really need it to work, and he'll turn everything back on. And what's funny with him is he does it on the tours to the guests. So I have all the guests trained to ask Francis to turn the equipment back on, their cameras or recorders or videos, and he'll turn it back on. So it's really common and well known here in the Whaley House on the tours that Francis loves the electronic equipment.
Well, Francis, we need to have this working this morning. So if that is you that's playing, I'd really appreciate it. We really need to have this on. We want to be able to tell your story and talk about the house and invite people to come. So if you could let me work, that would be great. So to get back to the beginning, Maritza and Colleen are here from the San Diego Ghost Hunters. And let's ask each of you, how did you get involved in this to start with?
Well, I started in 2004. I grew up from a small child seeing and hearing things, and I kind of tuned it out for a few years when I hit my 30s because they just wouldn't leave me alone, and I was able to shut it off for a while. But then I went to England on a trip. I danced a lot, and we were able to go to England and dance in a folk festival there for the United States team. So I went there, and we went. My husband and I afterwards traveled all over England, and we went to Glastonbury. And when I was in Glastonbury, England, I was taking a lot of pictures with a 35 millimeter camera, and I got a picture of a knight in armor looking back at me. And that kind of piqued my interest. And when I came back, some of my friends and I, of course, went to the Coronado Hotel, and then we went into the Whaley House, and that just kind of started the adventure of where I am today. And since then, it's been 10 years now. In 2004, I started in the Whaley House, and it's just going to keep going for a while. It's just a very interesting subject, and I've learned a lot in the Whaley House about the paranormal, and I've studied and taken a lot of courses since then to understand even more. So that's mine. That's how I started.
Okay. Colleen, how did you get involved in this?
Okay, well, since I was a young child as well, I've seen spirits and I could hear them talking. And at the early age of 5, that was the first time I ever saw a spirit, a full-bodied apparition, banging on my bedroom window. And it was the spirit of a teenage girl. And she was distressed, banging on the window, asking me for help. And, of course, it scared me. I was only 5 years old. But, it left an impression on me, and to this day I've never forgotten her face. I talked to my parents the next morning. Of course, they said, "Oh, you're just dreaming," and that went on for many years. You're just dreaming. You're just dreaming. And about the age of 9, a friend of mine, the house that she lived in, it was a mortuary for about 25 years. And whenever I'd go over to her house, there was always paranormal things happening. Things would fly off the countertop. You could hear footsteps up in the attic portion of the house. The house was very haunted, and we had seances back then at the early age of 9, which is kind of crazy, but it was just, very interesting for us. And didn't really do much. About 17 years ago, or when I was 17, that is when I started to have kind of out-of-body experiences. I know Marissa had that as well. But that kind of scared me. So I did as much as I could to kind of push everything back. And then my cousin, Ben, married Marissa. So Marissa's my cousin through marriage. And when I met Marissa, I think I was 14 at the time. But she started telling me about some of her experiences. And I shared mine, and, it was a relief for me to be able to talk to Marissa about the things that have happened to me. And, we kind of went our separate ways as we got a little bit older. And I would say back in 2008, I started working with the paranormal team up in San Bernardino County. And I knew Marissa had her team as well. And so I just invited her on a investigation one day. And our energy just working together was just undeniable. So we just have this great energy when we work together, and that is what really helps us run. And when we're on investigations, is our energy. So we just decided, she invited me to join the team, and we've been working together, since late 2009, 2010, and it's been great. And we're learning so much about life on the other side, and it's just kind of a lifelong goal for us both to try to find even the smallest piece of, evidence that we can that there is life after death, and, answer questions that everyone has, and just kind of share that with the world. It's just a fascinating journey for all of us.
And speaking of you can ask questions there. You can ask them through Facebook or Twitter, or you can call in 347-838-9903. If you have something that falls under that larger umbrella, this is a different show than we normally do, so we're not doing readings today. If you're hanging on now to get a reading, sorry I can't help you. We'll have a reader on again in another week or so, and you can check back for that. But if you have questions about paranormal investigations and stuff to help you out, I have one that we could quickly get started. You guys sent me a bunch of EVPs, and I know I think for those who are interested in paranormal investigation, the abbreviation EVP, it's sort of turning into something like Xerox and Kleenex that we use it for a lot of things. But working with an obelisk is different than working and getting electronic voice phenomena. Can you sort of explain what the difference is?
I'm sorry, what was that last thing, Ken?
The difference between working with a tool like an obelisk to get to communicate with spirit and getting actual EVPs, what the difference between those two are?
Oh, okay. Yes, the EVP is electronic voice phenomena. So most of the time you don't hear it out loud, and you record it into a recorder. So when you go home and listen to who you were trying to communicate with, or listening to asking questions to the spirit, then when you come home, you can put it on your computer, and you can hear the voices through your computer, through the program that you can download off the internet to listen to the voices from your recorders. And an obelisk is a electronic voice, it's an experimental piece of equipment that is working very well in the paranormal world. And it's a dictionary of words in a box, and it has a mechanical voice. And once the spirits learn how to use the mechanical voice, we're finding out for us, in very haunted locations, they don't need the dictionary. They just come out with their own words. And it's just an incredible piece of equipment that Bill Chappell has invented. And it works very well for us. We use it a lot.
I have an example of... Sorry?
Oh, no, I was just going to ask if Colleen had anything to add to that.
Oh, well, for the obelisk, there are several different types that have already been made and come out. So we actually use the original obelisk that only has about 500 words in it. And so, a lot of the words that are said through this box are words that aren't even in the dictionary, that are actually in this box. And so, when we talk to a spirit, we literally can tell if it's just babbling using the words in there, or if we're actually carrying on a full conversation with someone that's actually manipulated the box to communicate with us. And then some of the newer obelisks have about 1,200 to 15 words in the dictionary that are in the obelisk, and they'll use many of those words, but then, as you'll see with some of our evidence, and some of the EVPs that you're going to hear, those words are definitely not in the dictionary that's set into this, obelisk. So it's pretty incredible that they can manipulate it and communicate the full sentences, one word here or there, but communication with the obelisk has been great, to be able to use. And, with the electronic voice phenomena, the EVPs, they can imprint their voices on digital recorders. They can record, on video recorders. Anything that allows you to record, and you can actually hear the recording. They can imprint their voices on those types of things. So that's just in a nutshell.
Oh, go ahead, Tom. Also, with the EVPs, they can actually speak out loud. So if they want you to hear it in real time, you can actually hear the voices in real time. So there's a few different kinds of EVPs and how the spirit world communicates with us.
Okay. You sent me a bunch of these, and I listened to them last night, and I had posted on Facebook these bumps and hair standing up. Especially with this one. This is an example of an EVP. This came from the Whaley House. And I think you said that this was Francis.
Yes, and this was Colleen. It's the one Colleen you got on the tour when you asked Francis where he was.
Oh, okay, yeah. If it's the one that says I'm out there in the dark, that would be a session that I had in the dining room, and I had a group of girls with me, and we were experimenting. We had an EVP session going on, and Francis loves the girls, so he actually followed us into the dining room, and we had a couple of EVPs prior to this one. When we played it back, we can actually hear him talking. So one of the girls asked Francis if he's, if it's him, if he's in the room, and right as soon as they hear that, you'll hear a female voice say, what was that?
I'm in the shadows.
Yeah, she goes, I'm in the shadows, and it sounds electronic. It's a really interesting EVP, but immediately he says, I'm out there in the dark. And so when we played that back, of course, all the girls screamed, and because there was no male, standing in the room with us, but it was really exciting.
Here's what that sounds like, and it's repeated a couple times to give you a chance to be able to hear it, so listen very carefully.
So the grass is all you hear? So the grass is all you hear? So grass is all you hear?
Wow. So yeah, I heard that last night. Late at night, alone in my house. That is, and that's a voice that, for that you will attack.
What's really neat is to hear the quality of Francis's voice and get a pretty good idea how he sounded as when he was alive. So that was a really unique and very special gift for us.
Definitely. In fact, I think he's playing with your equipment right now. There he goes.
Yep, Francis was at it again. He loves the equipment.
Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing that he knows. He could probably maybe even sense when that is played somewhere, because that's not the first time that's happened.
Well, it's new equipment for him to play with.
Yeah.
But there aren't, and I think this clip really exemplifies what you're talking about, that there's the built-in vocabulary, but obviously they're using words that aren't in there because Maritza's name is unique and would not be one of the words that it would load in as the first one. So here's another example from the Whaley House, and this is the San Diego Ghost Hunters using an obelisk.
Are you here, Francis? Can you come out and show me your deal? Francis?
Tell me, Maritza. Tell me, Maritza. Tell me, Maritza. Tell me, Maritza.
What was cute with that is Ghost Adventures was just a house. It's the Whaley House. And when Zach and Aaron and Nick heard that, it literally floored them, because they know what was cute is Zach kept asking me, okay, how do you say your name? How do you say your name? And it was kind of, funny, he kept asking me, okay, how do you say your name? And then when I played that and they heard the obelisk say Maritza, it just about floored them all. It was so funny, their reaction. And they just kind of looked back at me like, oh my God.
It was free.
I don't know if Maritza, if you can hear it, but he's cutting in and out.
Yeah, it sounds very echoey on my side, so I don't know what's going on. I can barely hear.
Yeah, I can't hear his conversation at all.
Okay.
That's the paranormal. Maybe this is a sign of things to come to the Whaley House.
I apologize for that. I was cut off.
We're really having a hard time listening to your voice, Cam. We can't hear you.
I've been cut off a couple of times.
Okay, there you go. It's got to be Francis, because he knows. he comes to my house sometimes, so I know when Francis is around. He's
Right.
quite a character.
And this, last night when Maritza and I were going through the evidence on the phone together, Francis, and this could have possibly been him, she's going through the evidence we're going to send you, and all of a sudden a male voice comes through my phone, my sister's sitting next to me, and she hears a man say, "Don't forget about the doctor." And that was a piece of evidence we just got on, let's see, it was 2 tours ago. So, it could have been Francis, it could have been Mr. Whaley, who knows, but a male voice came through the phone and said, "Don't forget about the doctor."
Wow. Francis, if that is you, we are very appreciative that you're with us today. But if you could let the technology to continue to work through the rest of the show, that would be really great, and give us an opportunity to tell more of your story and let people know more about your home in Old Town San Diego. That said, can you sort of describe what people can when they go?
Well, Francis is quite a character. He loves the women, and he loves to follow the women around, and he'll shut their cameras off, and he loves to have them talk to him. So we tell him, just ask him to turn it back on. So he will. He'll turn it back on the minute they ask him. But he'll follow the women around the house. We have a few spirits in the Whaley house that do that. Yankee Jim is another one. He loves the women, and he loves to flirt with the women. And then we also have another spirit, Mr. Tanner, and he really goes crazy over the women, especially the Franklins.
And so as we would start, and we're going to do a tour and a live broadcast in 2 weeks from inside the Whaley house, and this is an after hour. So happens as you don't want to. What happens at the beginning? How you.
Colleen, did you get that?
No, we can't hear you. You sound like you're in an echo chamber underwater. Come on, Francis. Come on,
we need to talk.
Can't you ask it nicely, maybe?
Well, at least we can hear you now.
Okay. So what I was saying was, can you sort of explain what happens on a tour, how you start without giving anything away, but just generalities of how the tour starts and what you do as you progress through the house.
Go ahead, Colleen.
Okay, so what we normally do is, of course, at the beginning of the tour, we have a presentation. We like to share our evidence with the guests, and then we split the group up into 3. We have another investigator, Allie, that also joins us on our tour, and we let our group test some of the equipment with us. And so typically we'll go into 3 different places of the house, and we will experiment with the obelisk, do EVP sessions and also the divining rod, and let them test it. It works best when we get the guests to interact, because of course the Whaleys know us, and there's different energy will attract different spirits. So I try to let my group, especially when we're using the obelisk, actually hold the obelisk in their hand and ask questions. So I'll typically let them know who's specifically in that room, who we've communicated with, most of the time. And just let them ask questions and see if they get a response. If there's no responses, I'll typically pass the obelisk to the next person. And like I said, if there's non-believers in the room and they're not happy to be there, because sometimes there are, they might have a friend that drug them along on the tour, and they're just not excited to be there. So typically they won't get an experience. But if the person that came with them just was very excited to be there, a lot of times the spirits will interact with them. So energy and participation from the tour guest is really important, and that'll help with the experience. But Mr. Tanner, he just loves the women. So when we're using the audio, I'll typically ask him, especially if we have a bunch of girls in the room, what color of hair do you prefer? Do you like the blondes, the redheads, brunettes? What's your what do you like in a woman? And typically he'll say blonde, and it's hysterical, the way he'll interact. Or if somebody's not a believer, the obelisk might say bad attitude, and then everybody will just start laughing. It's amazing. And so after we're done with our little sessions, they're free to roam around the house and take photos and do their little EVP sessions if they have a recorder with them, and still use the equipment that we were testing and showing them how to use. And then also as a treat, they're allowed to go in the master bedroom of the Whaley house, which is a treat for any of those tour guests. And Marissa is in there using the very first obelisk. The Whaleys love that, and they love interacting with Marissa in the bedroom. And so 5 at a time are allowed into the master bedroom. And we've had some amazing, things happen in the master bedroom. Not just connections with the Whaleys, but connections with the tour guest loved ones that have crossed over. So you never know who's going to come through.
On our last tour, we had a woman that came in, and a name came out of the obelisk, and she looked at me, and then she went over by her husband, and then the voice started talking again, and she started crying, and it was her father that had passed away, and he was telling her he loved her, don't be sad. I mean, it was really a beautiful conversation, and he gave her closure. And she was really moved by that and couldn't believe that had happened to her. But we actually get that a lot in both the houses we work in. It's quite amazing when the family members come through that obelisk and start talking. And another cute thing we do get in the Whaley house is when there's a lot of girls and women in the theater. Mr. Tanner, when they start to leave, calls them back and says, "Sit down." He's not done with them yet. So the obelisk is quite amazing in both the houses we work in, but the Whaley house is just amazing.
Yeah.
It's
and even in the master bedroom, when the tour guests walk in, they'll literally call the tour guests by name, one by one, as they're walking in. There's been times where that's happened multiple times, where they're actually calling the tour guests by their name.
It scares the heck out of them. It scares the heck out of the people to hear their name being called as they come in.
Yeah, I bet. When we do our event coming up in, as I mentioned, 2 weeks from yesterday, we'll be with the San Diego Ghost Hunters live in the Whaley House after hours. You can still join us, by the way, if you go to psychichtapestry.com and click on Whaley House. You'll see all the information there. And we'll be broadcasting live. I'll be set up upstairs in the theater in the back corner, which I understand is Mr. Whaley's corner. I'm hoping that I won't be encroaching on his space, but that's where the electricity is from there.
We'll have to see what happens. Hopefully he won't set the alarms off.
Yes, that's something really interesting that I found. There was a and I watched that episode, and I thought that the way they were, and I know it's edited for television and they're trying to make it a good show, but it seems like they're sort of stomping through the house demanding that the Whaleys shoot.
I'm losing you, Ken. The Whaleys are at it again. I'm losing you. You're very echoey.
Now, how about now? Is it any better now?
Yes.
Better? Worse?
Yes, that's perfect.
Yes.
That's perfect.
Okay. So the Ghost Adventures were there, and they were doing their show. They were sort of stomping through the house, yelling, demanding that the Whaleys show themselves. And what you guys do is, it seems a lot more respectful of the Whaleys, and I wonder if you think that's why they're much more receptive, because they didn't get a whole lot, but you guys have had great interaction and communication.
Well, we treat them as family because I've worked there for 10 years, and Mrs. Whaley, she hasn't done it as much lately, but when I would walk in the house, she would come in and put her hand on my face and run her hand down my face, like in a very loving way. And she would also grab my hand and tap my hand. Because every time we go in the house, we'd go, "Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Whaley, we're here to visit you today." We love the Whaleys, and we honestly feel they love us too. They tell us, "Love you," on the recorders. They tell us on the obelisk, "Love you," and a couple of them sometimes will give kisses on our recorders. So when we play it back at home, we actually hear like kisses. So it's quite amazing, the Whaley house, and how beautiful they are in there. And Yankee Jim, everyone's scared to death of Yankee Jim. But he's actually a prankster, and he loves to play jokes on people. And he loves to annoy us during our presentation. When people come in and sit down, we have a REM pod where Yankee Jim is, and he has fallen in love with that REM pod. So the whole time we're giving the presentation, he'll sit there and touch the green button, and it goes the whole time through our presentation. And I'll go, "Yankee Jim, stop that for a second." He'll stop for 1 second, and he'll start in again. And then the minute the presentation's over, he'll stop. And then he'll just answer every now and then with the guest. He'll turn it on and off. But he loves to annoy us with that REM pod. So he's very, very, all the spirits in the Whaley house are quite amazing. And they're just, it's amazing. And I'm very thankful to be able to work there.
Yes. And, the one thing, I'm sorry, I was just going to say, the one thing just to touch on, too, is that our way of investigating is, I can't speak for all paranormal groups, but we don't believe in interrogating spirits unless you're in a setting that calls for that, like a prison. Because if you're in a home or a historical location, and there are family members that, or family that used to live in the houses, you don't know, you can't be screaming at spirits. You don't know if it's a child you're yelling at. You don't know who it is that you're yelling at. And, we honestly feel that we, as investigators, need to respect, each and every place that we investigate. We need to respect the spirits that are there. And we talk to them on just a normal level, as if we're speaking to somebody we just met, or speaking to a friend. That's the way we choose to investigate. And I think that we get a lot more evidence that way, because they're literally talking to us. And if Marissa and I are walking down a hallway and we've got our recorders turned on and we're just carrying on a conversation about something that happened, the day before or whatever, as we play our recorders back, you can actually hear them chiming into our conversation.
And they laugh. You can hear them laughing at a joke or, it's so funny. They're just exactly the way they were in life, in the spirit world, but without a physical body.
Exactly.
They're people.
Yeah, I noticed that on the Ghost Adventures, and I don't mean to keep throwing them up, and I don't have anything against them. I don't know them. And my only experience is... I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, but I noticed when they did their show at the Whaley House and the Whaleys show themselves, it was very interesting that they would do that and almost immediately the alarm would go off, as if to say, okay, that's about enough out of you, get out of our house.
Yeah,
well, they're thrown against the wall.
Mr. Whaley, he can, even on our tours, though, he does that. When he's tired, and we had America's Most Scariest Places, it was on the Travel Channel, I think, coming to the house, and they were in there for hours. And on the obelisk, Mr. Whaley started saying, ouch, ouch. Mr. Whaley's actually very polite about it, and he'll go, leave. And if you don't pay attention, and I told the girl that before, the producer, I said, if he starts saying out and leave, he's going to set the alarms off. He gets to a certain point. Oh, no, we'll hurry up. We'll get out of there. So she went upstairs. It was towards the end, and he was so exhausted by then. And he goes, she says, okay, Mr. Whaley, I'm so sorry. We're just going to do one more thing. He set off the huge alarm, the big one. She ran out of the house with the crew, and they didn't come back in. That was it. So when he even on our tours, he'll go out, leave. So then, we're out. We're not in there that long, an hour and a half. So we do leave. But sometimes around Halloween, he's so exhausted that he does set the alarms off on our tours as we're packing up or on our tours. He wants everyone out of the house. So I thought that was kind of neat. The Ghost Adventures got to experience that.
And remember that one tour, Marissa? We had a tour where the alarm went off times. It was during Halloween. Because we had multiple tours, and there's so many people that go through the house. On one tour, 3 separate times, that alarm was set off that night, and one of them was the burglar alarm in the master's bedroom. Yeah.
Where he talks to me on the obelisk, and he kept saying, out, and sure enough, he set that big one off. People were covering their ears. It was so loud.
Just to give you an example of the relationship that the San Diego Ghost Hunters have with the Whaley House. This is and listen very carefully to this one. This one you can hear Mrs. Whaley saying hello to Colleen. Listen really carefully, and I'll hear a couple of times, but listen.
The Whaley House, Saturday, April 29th. My name is Whaley. April 29th. My name is Whaley. April 29th. My name is Whaley.
Wow.
That was such a cute one to hear that back when we played it, and she's actually singing.
Yeah.
And she actually said it twice. And you can tell she was a little bit older in that segment too. Her voice sounds a little bit older. She's got an accent. Just very sweet, very, very sweet.
And you were talking, Ritza, you had mentioned earlier about being in the master bedroom where Mr. Whaley uses the obelisk. And this is a great example, this cut, of of the interaction as he's talking through the audience.
Could you a male? Whaley, Mr. Whaley. No. Whaley. Who is it? Can you say Top Hat?
Top Hat.
Thank you. Mr. Whaley. Will you come to mine? Whaley. It's Mr. Whaley.
That's amazing. And you can
yeah, he's so cute. He's so cute in the house. He's really quite a character.
Oh.
And he also likes to blow sweet tobacco pipes into people's faces, the women especially. If he's in that mood, he blows sweet tobacco pipe right in. You can feel his breath. He'll blow it right into your face.
It's funny. In the chat room, there have been several comments about things that are going on with my voice during this, and one of this is about some footsteps that people seem to be hearing. Are either of you hearing them?
No, we're not hearing that on our end.
No.
I'll definitely have to grab the
footsteps in the house.
What, Colleen?
I said besides the footsteps in the house, upstairs in the theater when we're all downstairs, but through the phone here, no, I don't hear that. But, you never put it past the Whaleys. They're capable of anything.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Well, I'll definitely have to grab the podcast later and listen back to it and see what we can hear. Is there anything else that you think people should know? I know that you guys investigate more than just the Whaley House, and I want to talk about some of the others, but is there anything else that you think that people should know or that you'd like to share about the Whaley House before we move on to some other sites?
Go ahead, Colleen.
Well, I mean, just as far as the Whaley House goes, we donate our time there once a month to help raise money not only for the Whaley House for renovations, but also for other properties in San Diego County that the Soho organization is trying to save. It's such a pleasure for us to be able to give back to the community and give back by doing something that we love. And, we just want everyone to know that all of their ticket revenue goes back not only to the house, but also to help the Soho organization. And also, the other thing, too, is even though the house is so haunted, I think a lot of times, there's a misconception about going into a house that has a lot of paranormal activity, and that when they come in, they expect things to be flying around or, being touched.
Like bells and whistles.
Yeah, like on command. And that just doesn't happen. There are things that happen. You'll hear furniture moving, footsteps. Somebody might get touched on the leg. Dolly the dog will lick your toes if you have sandals on. But it's different for different people. So there's different experiences, and just enjoy yourself when you go in. Use your recorder on your phone, or bring a digital recorder. I mean, the evidence is what's exciting for us, and of course the personal experiences are very exciting. But it's not just going to happen on command every single time somebody comes in there and they want something to happen. Paranormal investigating can be very boring, but you could have a very quiet night, and then you go back and you review your evidence, and you're amazed at what you get evidence-wise. Also, the Whaley House at the very top of the stairs, the window that looks out into the yard. If you take photos of that window, whether the window is open or closed, you get a ton of apparitions in that window. And I don't know if it's, people, Mr. Tanner or Mr. Whaley, or it just seems like there's a lot of different faces, children, men, apparitions that you can capture in that window. So I would say that if any of the tour guests come, they should take multiple photos of that window there. And just, be respectful, have a nice conversation. Yankee Jim, we like to tease him about whiskey. We always bring a little shot glass of whiskey and a cigar. Yeah, he loves that. He likes to interact with the men. Talking about if the men talk to him about going out and having a whiskey or, smoking a cigar, a lot of times he'll get an EVP of him actually answering them. Dolly the dog is pretty prominent in the house. A lot of times you can hear her bark out loud.
Well, we're starting to get her barking on command, Colleen. Dolly the dog, we can start to call her, and a lot of times we'll go, speak, Dolly, and she will bark on command out loud, and people get to hear that in the dining room.
Wow.
So, it's amazing.
I've been to the Whaley House on regular tours several times, and there is a great energy there. Because of the press and just preconceived ideas that people have about haunted places, when you approach something like the Whaley House, there's the thinking that it's going to be, the Amityville house, something scary and horrible, and the energy there is not like that at all.
It's very family and it's very loving.
Yeah, it is. It's very positive. It feels good in there, and I'm sure that Mr. Whaley likes the way that they have kept the house up. But it feels good in there, and I'm really looking forward to doing this in a couple of weeks.
And one thing I wanted to mention too is what we completely forgot about is Violet. Even though her death was tragic, Violet is still in the house, and she loves communicating with the younger men, 18, 19, 20, 21, men that were around her age. And she will follow the men around the tour. If she specifically likes somebody, she likes their energy, she'll touch them. And we just recently had a tour where she was following one young guy around, and she touched him. She touched him on his face, the side of his face, which at first we thought was Mrs. Whaley, but it wasn't her. And did a little EVP session with him in the entranceway of the girls' room upstairs. And his girlfriend was standing next to him, and she actually recognized the girlfriend by saying into the digital recorder's doctor. His girlfriend is a nurse, and she's going to school to become a doctor. And so while he was talking to her, she actually acknowledged the girl. So Violet is in the house, and you can get her, on a recording, and also she loves the divining rod. So.
And she's also a one that loves to play jokes on people. She's a prankster. She has a very quick-witted personality from her journals, and she's also showing that in the house, that is her personality.
Are there any of the other? I know there are a few other EVPs from the Whaley House. Are there any of the other ones? Well, I think this is the doctor that you were just talking about, right?
Yeah.
Here you can hear. Listen very carefully.
Hey, Violet.
Wow, unmistakably one's doctor. That's amazing.
Yeah. And what's neat is if you hear that EVP, it's almost got this kind of a warped, echoey sound. We're finding that we're getting all different types of EVPs, and sometimes they come through sounding like an old-fashioned radio, and sometimes they come through as a whisper. I mean, EVPs, there's so many different types of EVPs that come through, so depending on, the person and what they're on, they come through in different tones.
I almost feel like that is like to do with the layer between the two worlds. And sometimes that layer is very thick, so you don't get as much, or they sound muffled, or they're far away. And other times that layer is thin, like through Halloween, and they come in really crisp and clean and almost human sounding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have talked about, we've heard from, with the EVPs that you sent, just about everybody at the Way of the House except Yankee Jim. So I thought I should play one of these clips. This is the one, Maritza, where you offered him a cigar.
Okay, perfect.
Any more afraid you can make those lights light up? I have some of those I can put in there.
What about a cigar? What about a cigar, Yankee? You like cigars? You like cigars? You like cigars?
Yeah, what was cute with that one is when I offered him a cigar, he said, "You cut the tip." He wanted me to cut the tip of the cigar and have it ready for him. So I went to the cigar store and I got a cigar and I told the guy, "Can you please cut the tip?" And so when I put it there, he was so excited. That rim pod didn't stop. All night that rim pod went off.
That's terrific. Colleen, I think that did you have to leave us, or can you stay for the rest of the show?
No, I can stay.
Okay. Then I think that's it for the Way House.
Could you just play one more, Ken? I'm sorry. Could you play George? George is amazing in the house, George Whaley. And it's the one he says, "I, George Whaley." He came in during the tour and announced himself on the obelisk.
Okay, here's George.
Hi, George.
Yes. Oh, hi, George. How are you? Haley, George Whaley. It's just a George Whaley.
So I thought that was a really cute one. He came in and announced himself for me.
Now, aside from the Whaley House, you've been to many other places. Where would you like to go next?
The William Hughes Davis house was really interesting. It's a house downtown San Diego in the Gaslamp Historical Quarters. And the house was actually moved 3 different times, so now it's in its permanent location in right smack in the middle of the Gaslamp Quarters. And this house is amazing with the history. It was built in 1850. It was brought around the Horn, and it was one of those houses that was prefab. So you put it together, and up in the attic you can still see the connection pieces, A, B, it's quite fascinating. This house has Civil War soldiers because it was a Civil War barracks, officers' quarters for that time period. And we have like 5 or 6 Civil War soldiers that will come in through the house. 3 of them have given us their full name. So on the obelisk, they announce themselves when they come in, so we know who we're talking to. It has several of the people who lived in the house from the 1850s on. Our favorite ghost spirit is George. He lived in the house from 1904 to 1977, and he is everyone's favorite. By the time they leave the house, he is everyone's favorite. He loves food. And the cute thing is, we'll go, "George, what do you like better?" Because he tells us he likes hamburgers plain. So we'll say, "George, do you like McDonald's or do you want one from Burger King?" And on a tour, it was a private tour with 4 people. The man asked George, "Do you want Burger King or McDonald's?" And George answered Burger King. So now we go and get George sometimes a hamburger, and we'll place it on his desk plain, no cheese, nothing. And he thanks us. He gives us kisses. He's another spirit that will give kisses. He loves Colleen, so he's constantly giving Colleen kisses. The house is amazing. And it was a hospital, for 8 years, so it's got a lot of the patients in there, but it's got layers of time. So it depends what time we're walking into. The Star of India in San Diego is also like that. It's like layers of time. So when we walk in, we don't know what time we're going to hit in the house. And it's really quite fascinating because each time has different spirits. And we learn more and more of different spirits that show up that want to start communicating. So the house, we're up to like 30, 40 spirits in the house through different time periods.
And also a bordello used to sit on the property that it now sits on. And so we actually have a madam in there. And every once in a while we'll get some of her customers coming through, and they make it quite obvious that they're a customer of Madame Raoul.
And they think we're the women that she has set up for them. So they can get kind of aggressive, and we have to kind of tell them, no, we're not the customer, the madam's women, so the girls. So the house is quite amazing. It has a lot in there.
Now, I've never been fortunate enough, at least yet, to go into the William Heath house. My wife has, and she was being with her so much different than the Whaley house.
It has heavier, very different energy.
And while the
creepy.
Whaley house, yes, creepy is one of the words that she used. So fantastic. You had that feeling as you're talking about, Burger King and some lighthearted things. Did you have that sort of feeling of almost like, I hate to say menace, but almost that heavy sort of creepy?
It's so heavy sometimes that you can't breathe in there very good. It depends what layer of time you're hitting. And we also had a German spy in the attic that was arrested. They didn't know his name. They just called him the spy in the attic. I do a lot of historical work. So I went in and I found him in some FBI records. And his name was Carl Offer. And he was arrested in 1917. And he is up in the attic. And he can get kind of aggressive sometimes. Not in a bad way. He's just, he doesn't want you there. He doesn't want to be bothered. So, and it's just weird. The house has so many different times and layers, and we walk in sometimes and the creepiness in the house is it's so creepy that we just don't even want to be in there sometimes, because it's so overwhelming.
Yeah, it's stopped Marissa dead in our tracks a few times. Sometimes we can't even make it up the stairs.
It's so creepy. But then other times it's the family, and other times it's a lot of, just the people, the townspeople downtown. It just depends what layer you're walking into.
When you walk in and it's one particular layer, is it possible to reach someone in a different layer, or is that just what you have that time?
Yes, because we will go downstairs. And then when we come up, we're in a different time. You can feel it shift. The house shifts continuously. And some of the docents from the Whaley house will go with me in there, and they have felt that. When we come back in the house, they go, oh my God, it feels different. A lot of people will feel the shift because it's so obvious and it's so strong, you can feel it.
Well, even before this, you can hear a pop. You'll actually hear a pop in the atmosphere. You'll feel something just like, ooh. And you can hear the
like
pop.
Electricity.
And people
Sometimes it's like electricity, too.
Yeah. And the people will say, oh my God, did you feel that? Did you hear that?
My wife is a part-time guide at the Baby House, and we know several of the other docents there, and there have been a couple of them who said, we want to be there when you do the broadcast live from there, but we're not coming to the William Heath house.
You want to look at that's just in the scary room, the master bedroom.
Yeah. They'll appreciate the Whaley house more.
It's an amazing house.
Yeah, I would be. I'd be
There's
glad
all-
to try and give it.
Oh yeah.
It's
There's
so
also a lady in black. There's a lady in black that has been in the William P. Davis house since the 1800s, and she is creepy. And she'll stand at the top of the stairs, and in the daytime, children and guests that are just walking through the museum will actually catch a glimpse of her. Yeah. They'll catch a glimpse of her standing at the top of the stairs. It looks like a human being, and she's got a full, long black dress on. And what's interesting is no one has ever seen her face. And we've actually captured her on camera, the bottom half of her dress, and just been shocked when we look back at the picture and said, "Oh my God, look, there's a black
solid.
dress." You know,
it looks like an actual woman is standing there. The dress is solid.
And she does not like people in the house, and she's actually rushed Marissa and I before, down the stairs, and actually rushed us and swirled around us. And Marissa and I clung arms, and we're like, "Oh my God, yeah." There's this time that she just doesn't want anybody in there, and when her energy is present, you can't even hardly get up the stairs. It's like you have weights on your ankles.
Yeah, your legs are exhausted. She takes all the energy out of your body as you're going up the stairs. But she's not there all the time, so it just depends. That's the layer of time.
You had sent, in addition to the Lady House cut that we heard earlier, you had sent some EVPs from the William Heath House. Do you have one that you recommend or that we should start with here?
Which one should we send you? Just go with whatever one. You have one.
How about the one you come now? Let's do the you come now. And this is one basically we really very first started actually really investigating house, because we investigated it for a year before we started doing our tours there. And just like the Whaley House, we donate our time there once a month to help raise money for the William Heath. And so it was at Christmas time. There was Christmas decorations up, and there was a piece of mistletoe hanging between the hallway and the parlor. And we were kind of teasing Edward Lanuza, saying, we hung some mistletoe, but we yet to get a kiss, forgetting that his wife, Esther Lanuza, is still in the house. And these are things that we try to be mindful of. Of course, this time we weren't, and we really upset Esther Lanuza. So we're kind of teasing Edward, and Esther is basically yelling at Edward, saying, "You come now." And she's so mad that she's like, she's sucking in her hair. Yeah. And we captured it on two recorders, which is great. So it just confirmed the EVP. But yeah, she was really upset. And of course, we had to apologize to her over and over again. And
we
one of
brought
the ghosts brought her some perfume. Yeah, brought her some lilac perfume. And it's just really a great clip.
Okay, here it is. Listen carefully.
She hung some mistletoe, but she's yet to get a kiss. What's wrong? It's not working. Isn't that the one you normally use? I'm going to have to change camera. I'm going to have to change camera.
Wow.
So what's interesting with that at the same time is that when she spoke like that, she drained my camera immediately. Because I had just put new batteries in, and she drained them immediately, and I had to go down and change the batteries again.
Wow. That was definitely one of the creepier ones that I was listening to alone last night. I'll be there in the back of my next game up. This one says, Bush Rick.
That one's a long one. It's a very interesting one. It's with the obelisk, Or was it the ghost box, Colleen? I don't remember.
No, it was the obelisk.
The obelisk. And Rick McCullum from the Hollywood Ghost Hunters is a good friend of ours. And he came down to the house, and that's something interesting with a lot of the haunted houses. If you bring somebody and you take them in the house and their energy triggers the house, that house comes alive. And Rick was one of those. The house just came alive, and he had just left. He'd been in the house with us for a while. He left. And the obelisk started talking. And we asked the obelisk how many, because he was almost pushed down the stairs. He was sitting at the top of the stairs and something came up behind him and pushed him, but he caught himself. So we were asking, who pushed Rick? And the obelisk starts answering each question. It was really an amazing clip because whoever was answering us stayed with us for 5 minutes at least and was answering the question.
Okay, here's that clip. Listen real carefully.
So, George, did you push Rick? Who pushed Rick on the stairs?
Spirits.
Oh my God! We told you you could. Was it fun to push Rick? Was it fun to scare him? Turn us on her. How many spirits pushed Rick?
Oh, darn, I don't have a spot.
A fair amount. A fair amount? So more than... Correct. Wow. Observe? He's a big man. He's hard to push, so it must have taken more than one.
Correct.
Guys. You guys are pretty strong. You guys are strong. Who pushed them? How many? 5. You've got to call him right now. Oh, that is hilarious. It's true. It's true. Didn't he call you on your cell phone and then you... Yeah, I didn't know it. That's right. What?
Friend.
Yeah, he's a friend. Yeah, he's a friend. And we told you could play a trick on him, so it's okay. It's okay. My spirit pushed him. A few. 5. That's funny.
5 spirits trying to push you down the stairs.
Yeah. So what was funny about that is all of a sudden my phone is sitting next to me and it started ringing. And I didn't touch it. And I looked down like, who's calling, or who am I calling? I realized my phone had dialed Rick. And all of a sudden Rick was talking on the phone. And we told him what happened. So the phone actually called him. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, because Julie kept saying, we've got to call him. So they just took it upon themselves to dial his number.
Dial us. And they dialed him for me.
Right, now this cut says, you a big girl.
Oh, this is Colleen.
Oh, my God. Okay, so I always choose to use myself as the guinea pig in the group. And as we get to know their personalities, we'll do a little flirtation here and there just to kind of see, what they're like, what their personality is like. Dr. Stockton is one of the spirits in the house, and his rocking chair is actually in the parlor. And he loves the women. He loves to communicate. We've gotten so many EVPs from him. He'll laugh with us. You'll hear him laughing wholeheartedly from the bottom of his belly.
He gives a belly laugh.
Yeah. And he's so funny anyway. So he's a doctor. He was actually a doctor in there. And I had a cold. And back in the day, they would, use what's it called?
Mustard
plaster. Yeah, mustard plaster. And put it on your chest to help, draw out the sickness. And so I still had a cold, so I was asking him, to put some mustard plaster on me. I was leaving, I would be back, you can rub some on my chest. And anyway, so this is another part where Esther Lanuza comes through. Now, we always ask spirits if they can see us. And typically they'll say fuzzy or yellow. We imagine it to be like kind of the old-time black and white movies, kind of yellowish. But we always get fuzzy or yellow. So on this occasion, she's actually saying to me, "You a big girl." Well, I'm not a skinny girl. Of course, I'm a little bit voluptuous, and so she comes through and says, "You a big girl." So either she's saying you're a big girl, you can rub it on yourself, or she actually sees me physically. So it's just very interesting, but it's the same voice as "You come now." So we know that this is Esther.
Okay, here it is. Here's the clip. Listen really carefully.
I have a cold. Dr. Stockton. Well, I'm asking everyone, do you have anything I should take? Mustard plaster. What did you get? He just touched. Mustard plaster. Yeah, I'll be back up. You can rub it on me.
Wow. Yeah, it's the same voice. It's just not angry that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank goodness.
and what's interesting about Esther is she likes to cook, but we can actually physically smell her cooking in the house. She likes to cook bean soup, split pea soup, and it'll just permeate the entire house.
We have 4 different soups that she cooks in the house for the smell.
That's amazing. This one is, this clip says, "I saw all of them."
Oh, this is cute. We actually had an author. She's a children's book author, and she just wrote another book. And there's a little section in the book about her investigation with us in the house. But she writes books for children, and she knows that ghosts and paranormal, because it's on TV, is a subject that a lot of kids are interested in. And so she came into the house, and a lot of the children hang out in the kitchen. And so we all, conjured into the kitchen. And we use trigger objects. We always bring the kids toys. And a lot of the toys we bring are toys they told us that they want to play with. So we have this picture book, and it's very colorful. And we'll sit down and actually read the book, to the kids in there and show them the bright pictures. And so I'm asking one of the kids, Jack, if he wants me to read the book to him, show him the pictures. And so he says, "I saw them." And what's interesting is, he's already saying, basically he doesn't want to see it. He's already seen all of them. But he sounds just like a little boy, about 4 or 5 years old. And instead of saying TH, it's DEM. So he's not, he can't correctly pronunciate the word them. And it's just an amazing EVP when we played it back to hear him saying that.
Okay. Here's that clip. Listen really carefully. San Diego Ghost Hunters at the Wooden Heath House here in San Diego.
Do you want her to read you that book over here about the zoo? Got neat pictures and a neat story. Can you move the flashlight a little bit so when we know that you want her to read you a book? Can you move?
Sounds just like a little child.
Yeah, isn't that the cutest?
When I listened to it the first time, not knowing the story behind it, I really got a full sense of me for it was just someone that was with you. And it sounds just like a young child.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so great just to hear that, you know.
To go back to the waiting house for just a minute, as we're talking about children and toys, we didn't talk about the nursery and the dolls. And I was wondering if you had any experiences with that room in the waiting house.
You know, that room is really weird. I worked there, 10 years, and in every time I've been in there to investigate the house, that room we always forget about. It's like it disappears, and we don't think about it. We walk by it. It's the weirdest thing. Till this day, we have not investigated and set up cameras or anything in that room. It's like it totally disappears from our view, and we don't even think about it and know it's there. But it is a creepy room during the day or anything. When you walk by it, it's creepy. But when we're there to investigate, for some reason, they wipe it clean from our minds.
Yeah, it's like it's a mask.
Yeah, like they mask it, and we just forget about it. That is a very weird, creepy room in the waiting house.
Yeah, there's something about old-time antique dolls that are just creepy anyway, and there are a bunch of them that are in this room. And I know that the story goes that they need that there's a lamp in the I think it's in the window or right next to the window in that room that is always left on, and that they leave it on all the time because when they used to turn it off, when they would close up at night and they turn that light off, that when they came in the next morning, all of the toys were moved under the bed as if a child had.
Yeah, it's just a very creepy room. There's just something about it. During the day, sometimes when you walk by it, you'll just feel this creepiness come out of there. But when we're there actually investigating, it disappears. It's the weirdest, and we think, oh my gosh, we forgot to investigate that room again. I don't know how many times we've done that.
It will be interesting because while I'm going to be set up in the back corner in the theater that's adjacent to that room, I wonder if any that creepiness will come over to see.
Yeah, it should be interesting that night.
One of the other things that you sent me is from the Mackey House in Virginia City.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very creepy house. That was just full of stuff. And one of the things we picked up was this was towards the end of our investigation. We had been in there for probably 6 or 7 hours. And all of a sudden, we're downstairs and we hear a woman moaning. And it was going through the whole house, just this horrible moaning sound. And so we started creeping from room to room, trying to figure out where this moaning sound was coming from, and we realized it was coming from upstairs. So we slowly creeped upstairs, and I mean, it took a lot for us to get up there because that moaning was so loud, and it was just echoing through the house. And we thought, my God, is this the bathroom pipes? And the pipes are making noises, or we were trying to figure out what was causing this noise. But as we started going up the stairs and I was asking questions and Colleen was asking questions, like, are you okay? Would you like some peppermint tea? It would trigger the moaning, and it was like the moaning would change. So it was trying to communicate back to us. And that went on. I mean, we have done a lot of places, and never have we had one paranormal experience last for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We were able to find what room it came out of. It was in the bathroom at the end of the hall upstairs. So we captured it on our recorders. It was the creepiest thing I think we've ever been through in a house, because it was just Colleen and I alone in this 3-story house by ourselves, an old Victorian. And what's interesting is it was one of the houses, the very first house that the Hearst family actually made their money from, because the man who owned it married one of the daughters of the Hearst family, and it's connected to the Hearst family. And it was, the next day, the owner, we went in and talked to him, a really nice, very sweet man. And we asked him and told him, could it be the pipes? And he said, there's no way, because the pipes were disconnected years ago, and it's just the pipes that are hanging on the walls. There are no pipes anywhere else. It's not connected to anything. So then that really blew our minds for Colleen and I, and we were just like, oh my God, that was one of the creepiest things to hear, going through the house, and it filled up the whole house.
Yeah, it stopped us dead in our tracks when we first heard it. Like, literally, it took us the longest time to actually get up the staircase.
I know.
You'd go a little bit, and we would look at each other and go, is there somebody up there? You wondered, was someone in the house doing this? We even opened up one of the drawers. Marissa did on the dresser, and we told him we did that because we thought maybe somebody planted something in there,
well,
a recorder or something.
It sounded like it was coming out of the master bedroom by the dresser, but it was actually coming across the hallway, so it was behind the dresser in the bathroom, So, we were trying all kinds of stuff, trying to figure out what is this noise, but then as it started giving intelligent moaning sounds back to the questions, we knew, oh my God, this was a spirit, And
we also find out, remember he told us, that there was a woman up there that lived in the house that was very, very ill.
And died in the room.
Died, so.
Yeah, so we asked him that the next morning, and we told him we heard a woman moaning like she was dying in the room, and he says, and his eyes got really big, and he looked at us, and he goes, well, actually, there was a very elderly woman, and she took weeks to pass away, and she was very ill and died in the bedroom, which was next to that bathroom.
So freaky. Oh, very creepy.
Yeah, you were cutting in and out, so I don't know if anybody heard that.
Yeah, if anyone's heard that or not.
Well, here's the one of the last and
yeah, that one cut out too. I don't know if anyone could hear that one. But they're up on your website, aren't they?
They will be after the show this afternoon. Here it is. Let me try it one more time here. So pretty. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Goosebumps all
It was bizarre.
Wow. And that was going on through the whole house for a really long time.
Yeah, for like 20 minutes, and there was, I had to go through a bunch of different clips, but some of them it just keeps going, in a row, and you'll ask, Marissa says, "Do you need some peppermint tea?" And it's like, just kept going like they were really in pain, and we just stood in the hallway, looking at the back of the hallway, going, "Oh my God, where is that coming from?" And it was hard to take a step, one step at a time.
We heard so many. Oh, go ahead, Ken. Sorry.
No. Go ahead, Marissa. I'm sorry.
Oh, that house was incredible. We heard so many noises. We heard footsteps. We heard furniture. We heard people sitting down. It was just, wow. The noises out loud were incredible in that house. And what we caught on the recorders, there's full conversations going on all around us. It was incredible. That was an amazing house.
To kind of lighten things up, you sent me this clip, and you said you weren't sure that you did.
I know which one that is.
The Pasadena house.
Colleen, tell them the story.
Okay. So this is a 100-year-old Victorian home in Pasadena, and my sister works with a massage therapist, and this was actually her sister's home. And there's been several deaths in this house. One of them was their aunt who died in there from cancer, but the other one was there's two sisters that lived in the house, and one of the sisters, her son was friends with this one guy who unfortunately was into drugs and alcohol, and he died of a drug overdose. And he was like family to them, and he used to live in this room. And so after he passed away, paranormal things started happening in the room. She would walk into the room, and mini blinds would pull up. Or she came home one day, and all the hangers in the closet were standing on end.
Yeah, it was.
She would hear noises in there. Yeah, things would be moving around, and so we decided to go in there and do an obelisk session. And so Marissa is changing the batteries in the obelisk, and we're waiting. And the minute she gets the obelisk working, all of a sudden you hear this loud, flatulent, fart sound come through the obelisk. And we're like, what? Never have we heard, we've heard the spirits manipulate the box. And like an EVP will come through the box, but this was, a fart. And he keeps doing it. Well, apparently, the sister, her nickname was Cooper. And her son's friend knew this. And so, it's just ironic just to hear this thing. We laughed so hard, but you'll just have to listen to it. I mean, it was hysterical.
All right, here it is from the Pasadena house.
Oh.
What was that?
I don't know.
Poop-poop-a-doo.
You know what? My nickname is Cooper. Oh, God.
Farting.
I've never done that before.
Nick or Nick?
Mm-hmm.
What's your name? Is that you, Poop-poopy-doopin? Do that again.
Weird. Learn. You don't know how to use it?
That was funny. It was like it was just farting.
Free?
That's definitely not what you expect here.
we couldn't stop laughing. I mean, it was just so funny. And the guy's name that had passed away was Nick. So then she knew who it was when he said that.
But what was funny is when he first did it, he parts and then he goes, ugh, like he's pushing it out, and that was immediately following. Then he says better, and free, So it was just so funny. We love that one.
I have some clips here from the Star of India.
That's an amazing ship. Amazing ship.
One of my favorite places.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think you have one there named Carlos.
Yes.
Well, we were there with about 8 or 9 people. We had all our friends on there one night, and we're all walking around. And I'll just leave. This man came through, and it was just amazing how clear. And this was on the ghost box. This is not the obelisk.
Okay, here it is. The San Diego Ghost Hunters at the Star of India.
It's even warm.
Help. It's a help.
That's a thing.
Who needs help?
Yeah.
What is your name?
Carlos.
What is your name? What is your name? What is your name?
Carlos, very clear. Wow.
And what was interesting, his accent, you could hear the Spanish accent in there. It was just, we were blown away by that one.
There's another one here that says dragging footsteps.
Whew. Yeah, that was a scary one. I had done some historical work and found out who the first captain was of the ship. And his name was Captain Story. And his crew mutinied on him right after they left the port. So one of our investigators, Julie, that's on our team, asked if Captain Story was a good man or a bad man. And that triggered whatever was there was so mad because we instantly felt the shift in the atmosphere. And we heard something being thrown upstairs. And then we heard stuff being thrown downstairs where we were. And we're at the bottom of the ship, in the back. And the only way out is where this thing was coming down the stairs. And you could hear it, boom, boom, boom. It was coming down the stairs, but it was throwing things at the same time. You can hear a little bit of it being thrown, but it's mainly what you hear is the footsteps. And it scared the heck out of us.
Andy dropped something on the stairs, and the obelisk says drop.
Yeah, you could hear that. Something dropped really loud, and then the obelisk says drop.
Right, here's a piece of that. Listen real carefully to this.
Was Captain Story a bad man?
Or a good man. Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dragging.
I think that was it. I don't know why it's going on. Yeah. It was kind of hard to hear over the phone, the dropping. Oh, you're echoing again.
You can hear a little of it in the end part there that sort of went on, you could hear a little bit of the footsteps, but you could definitely hear the dropping.
And the boom, boom.
Wow.
The other clip from the Star of India says, Suzette says stay.
Yes, we have a very sweet spirit on the Star of India, and she likes the women, she won't talk to the men, and she wanted us to stay because we were done talking, we had talked to her for a while, and so you hear her say stay, and it's kind of fast, but she says stay in a really feminine, sweet voice.
Okay.
Quiet chairs downstairs, huh?
Yeah, it goes by pretty quickly, but you can definitely hear.
And sometimes they can speak really, really fast, so we have to slow it way down. Quite amazing.
Yeah, you can definitely hear this day. For those who haven't been to Star of India, can you sort of describe what that's like and who that you know of is there?
That one has so much history, and that's another one that has like layers of time. So sometimes we'll go on there, and it's men's night. It's the ones that came right out of England, and it's bad luck for the women to be on the ship. So all night long they're yelling at us to get off the ship. And they'll yell out loud without the recorders. We can hear them, get off the ship. Or they're yelling on our recorders telling us to get off the ship. And then other times we'll go on there and it's immigrants night. So we'll have a lot of women and children, and you can hear the children laughing and the women are talking and the men. And so it has a lot of different layers. So it just depends what layer of time we're going to step into. And when it's all men, that's my favorite because they're very active on the ship and they're very aggressive towards us. They don't want us on the ship. So it just depends.
I think there's one more clip that I have here. It says Buena Vista Adobe.
Oh, go ahead, Colleen. That's Colleen.
Oh, yeah, the Buena Vista Adobe has, it's got a lot of history to it. And in one of the rooms, it was the children's room, and we were back in this room, and we were using the ghost box, and we were talking to the children in there, and so I said, because the ghost box stopped talking a little bit, and every once in a while, if we feel like we're losing its spirits, we'll ask a simple question like, do you like apples or oranges? And if they're still there, they'll answer us. They'll say apples or oranges, whatever they like better. Or we'll say, do you like vanilla or chocolate? And on this occasion, I said, do you like vanilla or chocolate? And a little child answers and says vanilla. And, it's a Class A EVP. And not only did we capture it on my recorder, but we also captured it on Maritza's recorder as well. I think we lost you again.
Yeah.
It cut me off just as I started to play that cut, so I don't know if that aired at all. Did you hear that?
No, we didn't hear anything.
Okay, here it is again. Actually, not again, because nobody had to hear this except for me. I think that just flipped open.
Do you like vanilla or chocolate?
Vanilla. I'll take this one. Vanilla. Vanilla. Never.
And you can clearly hear a child's voice saying the no.
Yeah, a really sweet little girl was talking, so that was cute.
But what's confirmed it too is right when the child talks, Marissa gets the goosebumps. She feels the energy in the room too.
Is there out of all the places that we've talked about today and other investigations that you've done that we haven't talked about, is there one that you get the most reaction from, or that you would say is your definite favorite?
You can ask Colleen, then I'll answer.
Okay.
Teasing. No, I'm teasing. We've investigated so many places, and there are favorites for so many different reasons. But I would say the most lasting impression I've ever had in the years that I've investigated with Marissa is an investigation. It was a murder investigation that we did in Globe, Arizona, and it involved the Apache Kid. And he was in a stagecoach being taken to Yuma, so they could put him on the train, taken to Yuma prison. And there were Apaches also in the stagecoach, and one other guy.
Eight Apaches.
Yeah, 8 Apaches altogether, and we were out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert, where this massacre took place. And we actually, found the spot, and we were sitting there. We actually went into the desert at like 4 o'clock in the morning and had a local historian and a friend of his with shotguns, because of the coyotes and stuff out there. And we were sitting there before the sun came up, trying to connect with the spirits out there at that time that this would have happened. And so when we're sitting out there in the desert, I did an EVP session by myself. Marissa was a little bit further down the hill with the historian, and I actually, there was Sheriff Reynolds and Hunky Dory Jones was the deputy. And the stagecoach driver actually survived because of the Apache Kid told the Indians that, he was, don't waste another bullet on him. But Sheriff Reynolds, when I was sitting there doing the EVP session, I got an EVP that says, "I'm dying." And then you hear him take his last breath. And, he says, "I'm so cold," and then you hear him take his last breath. And so, just the residual of that energy being out there and to actually capture that on a recorder was just incredible, especially it being out in the middle of the desert. But after that, we actually went up to the cemetery and used the ghost box and also the obelisk by Sheriff Reynolds' grave to talk to him about the incidents that happened and also let him know that they found that the Apache Kid was innocent, that he wasn't involved in the massacre of the sheriff and the deputy. And so when we were talking to Sheriff Reynolds, he comes to the obelisk and says, "Kill him twice." And,
No, it was a ghost box, Colleen. It was a ghost box.
Okay. And so he's telling us to kill him. And so he believes that the Apache Kid is part of it. Well, after we go to the cemetery, we go into town, and Marissa and I go into this little shop on the main street. And these buildings are historical and very old. And we had an experience in this little shop where they had a lot of trinkets and things of that nature. And when you walk through the front door, a little bell rings. And so you walk in, and of course the woman that owns the store says, "Hi, how are you?" And come on in. And so Marissa and I are in there looking for souvenirs to take back to our family members. And I'm on one portion of the store, and she's on the other side of this divider. And a couple people are coming into the store, and you can hear the bell ring, and she says hello to every single person that walks in the door. And then the bell rings again, and, we kind of look up, and she didn't say hello, when the bell rang. And so it made me look up, and I saw this man walk through the door along the wall and stood in the corner looking directly at me. And I kind of looked back at the women standing at the counter, and no one recognized them. Nobody looked at him. They didn't look up when the bell rang. And he was this tall, you could tell he was like an Indian. He was very dark from being out in the sun, but he had white man's clothing on, and the clothing that he had on was from the time period of way back then. And he was dusty and dirty, like when you're riding a horse and you're out there, and his hair was cut in this bowl-shaped haircut. And the minute I looked at him, I recognized him as a picture I had seen of the Apache Kid when he was younger. And I knew instantly that was the Apache Kid as a man, because he did live, into, I think it was his 50s, wasn't it, Martha?
Yeah.
And,
they don't know when he died, but,
yeah.
He was around 50 when we saw him there.
So he looks up at me, and he's got his head kind of tucked down, and his eyes are looking at me, and he's grumbling, and he's rolling his hands over each other as if you're like wiping lotion on your hands, and he's grumbling, and he's got his head down, and his eyes are looking at me, but I didn't see any pupils, and his eyes just looked white to me, and so I instantly panicked. And I thought, oh my God. At first I thought, are we going to get robbed, or is this guy going to hurt me? And as I looked at him closer, I said, oh my God, that's the Apache Kid as an older man. And I hurried up and darted away from where I was because he started to walk towards me, and I knew Marissa was on the other side of the divider, so he's walking over to Marissa, and I'm looking at these women behind the counter, and nobody even sees this guy. And as I come around the corner, I don't know what Marissa was doing at that point, but he turned, walked away. We watched him walk out the door, the bell rang again, and a woman was coming into the store and basically passed right through the side of him. And when the bell rang when he left, the woman at the counter didn't even look up. Nobody looked up, and at that point, we were just standing there dumbfounded with our mouths hanging wide open. And this guy was solid. It wasn't a myth. It was as real as you and me, and I'll never, ever forget that, ever. And we were just dumbfounded, standing there, looking at each other, and it was creepy, it was exciting, and then we kicked ourselves in the rear end because why don't we pick up our camera and take pictures or run out the door after him, to see if he disappeared or what happened. But I'll never forget that. I mean, ever. It was the most interesting experience I've ever had.
Yeah, I kind of saw him too. When Colleen started coming around where I was, I looked up and I saw that man standing there, but I felt total evil. So I do a lot of energy work, and I've done a lot of classes. So I immediately put up a block and blocked him, and he looked at me, took a step towards me, and then he turned around and went out the door. And that lady came in, never saw him, it's like they walked right through each other. And that was one of the weirdest things that I think has ever happened to me too. It was just, the energy was just really weird, real creepy. So, yeah, that was a weird experience. I think one of my favorite experiences was, I was in Tombstone. I used to I go to Tombstone a lot. And I have to say, one of my very dear friends, Leroy, that I've known since 2007, died about a month and a half ago. He was shot down in the streets from another man. So he was a wonderful, wonderful man, and he should be acknowledged. He was there at the Birdcage Theater for many, many years, and he was just a wonderful, beautiful spirit, just a wonderful man. So But every time I went to the bird cage and investigated there, he would come in and sit with us. And there was about 10 people, and there was a machine I had that I bought offline that you can't find anymore. It had a little antenna, and you would hook it onto things. And it was kind of the same concept as Frank's box, but it was a metal box, and it had all these little dials on it. So I dialed it in, and I had it wrapped around this object. I don't want to say what it was yet. And we started hearing this noise, and it sounded like gravel being crunched under a wheel. And we're like, God, that sounds like springs. And you can hear this creak, 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 creak. And we're listening to this, and Leroy's standing there. We're all, listening. And all of a sudden, we realized the antenna that I had was wrapped around the Black Maria in the Birdcage Theater. And you can literally hear the wheels going down the road, crunching the gravel, and the springs squeaking. So that was an incredible experience. So then we started asking Johnny Ringo to come through. And he came through in this voice, and we asked him, who did you in? And he said 3 of them. And we said, we asked who, and he told us who it was, and he said 3 of them, and he was talking to us for a while and wanted us to say hello to somebody and, this and that, and he had a very interesting voice. I think that was one of my most memorable experiences of something that to actually hear a sound that was made 100 to 150 years ago of an object actually rolling down a dirt road, and to hear the wheels and the sound it was making from that time. And it came through that box, and everyone was we were blown away by it. And to hear Johnny Ringo come through and answer questions was truly amazing.
Well, we are quickly running out of time. If you'd like to find out more about the San Diego Ghost Hunters, you can go to SanDiegoGhostHunters.com and check out their website. Do you have anything coming up that you would like to talk about real quickly?
Well, I'm redoing my website, so be patient with us. All the voices, not all of them are up there on our website, but they are on YouTube, and it's San Diego Ghost Hunters on YouTube. And our new site's coming up, so it'll have everything on there. So it'll be up probably within another month here. And we'd love for you guys to write into us and talk to us. We'd love for you to join us. If you're in San Diego, write to me and we can take you into one of the houses.
Maritza and Colleen, thank you so much for spending part of your Saturday mornings with us and talking about
thank you.
My pleasure. It's been great having you on. I'm looking forward to listening to this back to hear what else has been going on.
Who knows, maybe Francis was talking out loud.
Yeah, there has been some postings in the chat room about different things that they've been hearing when I've been talking. So that will definitely be very interesting to see or to listen to. So I'll be playing that back. Julia, can you cut cords for us real quick?
Yes! Archangel Michael, please come in and cut the cords of any energy that we have attached to anyone or anyone has attached to us that is no longer serving our highest good. Please cut those cords now, and so it is. Thank you, Archangel Michael. And Archangel Metatron, please come in and fill all of those spaces back up with the diamond white light of the Holy Spirit, filling us up with the I am presence, love and light and joy and peace and happiness, hope, freedom, and harmony with a big smile on your face. Thank you, Archangel Metatron, and so it is. Thank you. God bless. Amen.
Amen. And thank you, Julia, and thank you so much for listening to this edition of Psychic Tapestry Déjà Vu. Have a great weekend.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.